ways up eventually. My name is Logan Sennett. I'm a sales and marketing representative for Power Guru Solar Electric, and we're joined by the owner and founder of Power Guru, being Anita. And folks, just wanted to thank you folks for coming here tonight. This means a lot to us. We're really excited about this upcoming project, and we look forward to you folks participating in it.
And Nathan here as well.
Yep, Nathan, our operations manager.
Managing the controls.
So for those folks that don't know about Power Guru, we were founded in 2008. We're locally owned, independently operated. Our home base is in the Left Bank in North Bennington, Vermont. We're certified to install in the state of Vermont, the state of New York, and also Massachusetts. We have just over 200 installations as of yet in those 3 states, and looking forward to adding more. We're also one of 4 certified Tesla Powerwall solar installers in the state of Vermont. So we're able to install home battery backup systems that are coupled with solar installations for complete backup. So that's an exciting opportunity and something that we're looking forward to. This is just some examples of some of our work. Some may look familiar, but we're really excited about moving forward in this great industry. So just wanted to go in a little bit on electricity and greenhouse gas emissions. I think all of us are somewhat aware that global climate change is occurring, and the CO2 or green gas emissions that are in the atmosphere have exceeded pretty much anyone's expectation. You can see by this graph here the rise and fall, and these actually coincide with various ice ages throughout the world's history, if you will. In 1950, in that corner there was an exponential spike due to industrialization and the use of petroleum and gases for most of our fuel source. Over here on the right side, I think, is a pretty interesting pie chart as well. This divides greenhouse gas emissions by the economic sector, and in the blue there, accounting for 27% of that greenhouse gas emission, is the generation of electricity, whether it be coal burning, fossil fuels, and things of that nature. So that is a large sector of the economy that contributes to these greenhouse gases. Down here on the bottom, Vermont has taken a strong stance on mitigating its carbon footprint. They've set a goal to be 100% renewable by 2030 as far as electricity generation. As of 2017, the state of Vermont is at about 97%. So we're certainly making a strong effort and leading an example on the state level. The bottom bullet point there, 800 megawatts, that refers to the electricity generation that's required here in southern Vermont alone, which is a tremendous amount of electricity considering the population density. You know, you look at areas like Burlington and the more developed areas up north, that number is much, much higher, so we all have quite a bit of work to do, but I think that 100% renewable energy by 2030 is certainly attainable at the pace we're on. What is a solar module? This is kind of a common question that I think has a really simple answer. Everybody knows what an LED light bulb is, I assume, and when you flip your light switch like we did to dim the lights here, electricity or electrons pass through a silicone material in the bulb to produce photons or light. Solar modules work the same way, similar way I should say, but in the reverse order. So when electrons or electricity or sunlight is gathered by solar modules, they pass them through a silicone material to produce photons. Electrons. So electrons to photons with the light bulb, photons to electrons with the solar module. This is just a brief slide depicting kind of how solar works. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. You folks are. No, you're not very far into it. You're actually right into the meat of it. This is a good thing. So, moving back to this slide here, very simply how solar works on a residential level. Obviously, the solar panels that are either mounted on your roof or on a ground-mounted system convert sunlight into electricity. Step 2, that electricity, which is produced by the solar modules, is DC current. Well, all of our outlets that we use in our home are AC current. So they pass through a device called a inverter, and that essentially converts that DC power from the solar modules to AC power that then can be used in your home. That electricity that's generated then goes on to the grid. For everyone here in southern Vermont, for the most part, Green Mountain Power is our utility, and they manage that electricity on what's called their grid. The technology of solar modules in step 4 have developed in such a way that we can now monitor production versus consumption using a smartphone, a computer, so you can look at a play-by-play of how much electricity or kilowatt hours you're generating from your solar system. So it's a lot of fun. We've actually had some classes, some schools that have tried to predict various solar projections throughout the year using these various apps. So it's a really nice implementation of technology into the sector. And then again here, step 5, a battery backup or a home storage system. That, in my opinion, is kind of the final piece of the puzzle regarding solar. Prior to the implementation of batteries or storage, it didn't matter how much solar power or solar modules you had on your roof or in your landscape. If the grid went down, you would still be out of power because there's a disconnect between the solar and the grid. But now, the Tesla batteries act as a bridge. So when the power goes out in your neighborhood, your battery would kick in, providing you with electricity, and your solar modules would continually charge that battery to help keep your lights on in case of a power outage. So those are the basic steps, if you will, of how solar works, and just wanted to kind of put that out there for some people that are unaware, or those that it's a little redundant. For my apologies if so.
So Hogan, you missed number 3.
Well, step 3 is when the electricity that's generated is what goes onto the grid. And there's a process in the state of Vermont called net metering. So they're able to monitor your production versus your consumption, and they net out those differences, if you will. So that's how you can have an electric bill of 0, essentially. If you're producing more than you're consuming, you can net that out to 0.
And that will happen with the community solar.
That's right, that's the intention. We can go down the road a little bit further, but I think it would be advantageous for people to potentially focus on completely eliminating their electric bill. There's no intention or requirement if you wanted to offset 50% of your electric bill, 25% of your electric bill. That's certainly attainable through a community solar project. But it may be best financially and your return on investment to offset the entirety of your electric bill. So this is a common question that is raised, especially here in the state of Vermont. There are a number of factors that limit people to install solar on their residence. One of which is the material that the roof is actually comprised of. For the most part, asphalt shingles, standing seam metal roofs, any type of corrugated metal roofs, solar installations can be put on those. Really a no-go for solar installers is slate. It's just too difficult of a material to work with, and has a potential to break as well during the installation process. Here in the Green Mountain State, obviously shade is a big killer of solar in the state of Vermont. We certainly have a lot of trees that surround our house and keep our houses cool in the summer, but they have a detrimental effect on solar module production if those modules or those panels are shaded. Roof orientation as well. Ideally, a south-facing roof will give you the best exposure throughout the year. We can accommodate east-west pitches to help offset your electrical demand or capture that arc of the sun as it passes through, but ideally a south-facing roof is required for your best solar production. Also, size of roof is another issue that we have when it comes to installing at somebody's residence. Often they don't have enough roof space or appropriate roof space to offset their electrical demand just by square inches, if you will. To give you a little perspective, a solar module or a solar panel is roughly 5.5 feet long by 4.5 feet wide. So they do still take up quite a bit of space. Hopefully in the future they will start to shrink, but right now the industry across the board is those are pretty much the dimensions of your solar module. Hey, come on in. How are you? So how community solar works. This is a great question, and one that we hope we answered a little bit here in the bullet points. But essentially, a community solar project is like a solar farm. There is a large array that is purchased by shareholders, and then the energy that's generated by the array is allocated or distributed to each shareholder accordingly. No, not a problem. If there's any questions too while I'm going along, please don't hesitate to reach out and stop me. So regarding the solar farm, essentially an LLC is built, and each member comprises that LLC. And with this particular solar project, Power Guru will manage the operations, the maintenance, the service, all of those necessities to help operate a solar farm, if you will. So the power is fed into the electrical grid, and then it's allocated accordingly to each shareholder through their utility bill. So what's really exciting about the potential of this project is that we can service anybody on Green Mountain Power's territory. Although we're generating electricity here in Bennington, we can service Brattleboro, we can service Rutland, we can service Burlington. It's a really neat concept that a implementation called group net metering allows us to do. We've also designed the community solar project in a way that guarantees a return on investment no greater than 10 years, no matter what your system size is or your share size. It's a bit of economy of scale, but we've been able to bring that to the forefront, which we're really excited about. Often, depending on how long or how large of a system you need at your residence, you may not see payback periods of 13, 14 years. So we're really excited to be able to bring a 10-year payback for anyone that may be interested in participating in this project. And for commercial or businesses, that payback period gets even better based on various state and tax implications and depreciation and benefits. So as I kind of alluded here, there is a 26% federal tax credit that's available to all participants in this community solar project, and that gets even better for the commercial sector. We work very closely with the Vermont State Educational Credit Union. They've got a wonderful loan towards renewable energy or any type of home improvement. It's called the ITC Loan there. There are other lenders and financing organizations that help residential and commercial businesses move towards a greener, more sustainable planet. That's just a local one that we work very closely with. One exciting thing on the bottom here, it might be hard to see for some of you folks, but there aren't going to be any annual costs associated with this community solar project. Often with other projects, there are annual costs that are aside from your initial investment, but we've structured this in a way that you'll be able to pay one time, one fee, and not have to worry about any additional costs as far as property taxes or anything of that nature. And we'll outline those a little bit more in the future. Actually, this future slide right here. So as you can see here, we've broken down the annual expenses and then the capital costs. And we've been able to total that cost to $3.75 per watt across the board. So essentially that is the rate that we would base your share size off of to get your overall cost. Keep in mind that these lifetime annual expenses is over 25 years because this project will be warranted through product warranty for 25 years. So it's we're really excited to be able to get that $3.75 a watt out to the community with a great return.
If you folks have any questions on that one, that's probably the one that's the most critical for you. We go back up a minute. So when we did South Shore Community Solar a couple of years ago, that was at $3.25 a watt. And when we created the LLC, the members had to work together to pay the annual expenses towards property taxes, insurance, and so forth. So rather than do that, we said, why not have a manager-managed LLC? So there's two types. You can either have a members manager, you can have managers, right? So what we do is, the $3 a watt goes towards the actual construction, right? And we would allocate 75 cents a watt towards paying property taxes, insurance, and so forth for the next 25 years. So that takes the, the worry of having to collect all that money from all the members out of your hands, as it were. Does that make sense?
Can I ask?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I see total 6,570, and then I see another total for lifetime of 164,250.
Yeah.
So as far as individuals paying in, what are both of those amounts?
Okay, so what we want to do is distinguish. What we did was we put this annual expense part up here
Okay.
just to show you how much each year you'd have to pay to keep the LLC going, to keep the solar project viable. Right, each year our estimate is around $6,600 or so. On a lifetime basis, which I hope and say was 25 years,
That's how you get to that.
that's
So do
164,000.
you pay each year?
No, you don't. So
You paid 75 cents.
when you buy a share, let's say that you bought 1 watt of share. Then out of that, $3 of that watt goes towards building the project, and 75 cents goes towards lifetime annual property taxes, insurance, and all of that. So we collect $375 from you, we put 75 cents aside into an escrow account. And we'll have a report to you how we are paying monies out of that escrow account, and how the account is doing, what we are paying. So it's all completely transparent, so you know how much is going towards all these entities.
Have you been successful in being able to project, the cost,
It's a good question. I mean, do we know how the costs are going to scale over time?
Right.
Well, part of it is, you have an idea what the inflation rate is going to be roughly around 2.5% a year or so. But the account will be invested as well. So there's going to be
okay.
some return that will get.
So there'll be a fund that you'll be building
Yes.
off the investment in order
Yeah.
to.
Right. Sure.
So those of us who purchased shares in the other communities, South Side. Okay, we have our LLC and we get a bill every year for property taxes and other things, right?
Right,
We were
yeah.
talking about the meeting the other night.
Mhm.
So in this situation,
You get none of that.
none of that.
Yeah.
You're not responsible essentially for
Right.
those, because we've
So
captured
it's a
that.
different way of doing it. There's not much difference conceptually, but because this is a much bigger installation that we're doing, it becomes unmanageable to have a bunch of folks meet and collect monies and pay them out. Even with SCS at about 40 members or so, it's getting to that point where you have to reach out and, there's issues with, having to get all the monies collected and disbursed in time. So we figured we'd do it this way.
Worst case scenario. You've been in business a long time. I think you're going to be in business for a very long time.
Right.
But you guys are the management company
Yeah.
that sees that this gets built and you're managing.
Right.
You go bankrupt. We all have shares into this large field.
Right.
There's no other money other than ours that is making this happen.
Right.
So there's no bank involved or somebody that would be ahead of you in terms of a bankruptcy payment. We as shareholders would be the first in line if somebody bought the facility and.
Yeah, so you own, actually, let's take a step back. The solar facility is owned by you. You own parts of that facility. Now, this 75 cents a watt, this annual annual expense account, that we are managing. If we go out of business, you can have another manager. That's transferable, that's not.
And this
something that goes-
escrow account,
Right.
who's managing the escrow account?
That'll be managed by us as the manager.
And
of
how you get in financial trouble and you start
Yeah.
pulling money from that escrow account,
Yeah.
where do we stand with
Brilliant.
it?
So right here is a ringer in the room.
Yeah.
This is Mr. Lon McClintock, who will be structuring the operating agreement and the lease agreement, and he can talk to you about that.
If
Okay.
he wants, I'm not sure how you're doing this presentation, I'm perfectly happy to get that information before we leave if you want to keep this
No, I think it's a
presentation.
No,
great
I think this is perfect timing.
Okay.
Actually. All right. So, Solar Guru is going to wear two separate hats. The first hat is the developer that creates this project and then sells shares to future owners. And once it's all sold out, Solar Guru is no longer involved as the developer. That role has ended. And it begins a new role as a manager working for the LLC. So it's not like an employee, it's like a company you would hire to manage a business. So that allows the owners, in a sense, to be passive owners. They don't have to be engaged in making decisions on a day-to-day basis about what repairs to do and what the budget should be and the like. That sort of structure was set up for South Shire Community Solar. This one, Solar Guru is going to use its expertise to be the manager for you. And so its assets and funds are separate from your assets and funds as the shareholders of an LLC. If you believe the solar array is being mismanaged, you have rights in terms of trying to get Solar Guru on the straight and narrow or to bring in another manager, because it's your array, not Solar Guru, all right? If Solar Guru has problems because it built too many developments, had too much debt, and went out of business, that would not change the fact that you're the owners of this array producing electricity and getting you credits against your electric bills. And you could bring in another group or individual to be your manager. The funds that are paid in at the very beginning do not belong to Solar Guru. They're not part of its assets. They are assets of this LLC that you're going to be members of, and are only.
I'm silent, sorry.
That's about it. And it's going to be a pool of money that can only be used for your array as members of this LLC. Does that make it clear?
Yes.
They're
The only
completely
thing I
separate.
would follow that up on is,
Manager.
because if whoever's managing it, if it's them or another company, they obviously have to do maintenance, they have to buy parts, they have to replace things. And who audits that? Is it up to us as owners to do that if we suspect that things are going into other arrays other than the one that we have shares in? Or,
No,
I'm just
you're-
looking at worst case here.
Okay, so Solar Guru as a manager, I'm going to mess that name up.
I was going to global replace.
Right.
Power for solar.
Those funds are going to come out of this pool of money. Now let's go to your worst case scenario where inflation is back up to 10 or 13% like it was in the early 80s and money is very difficult to borrow. That is one of the risks of being a member of this LLC. If the pool is not large enough to deal with a financial problem like that, then the members themselves could raise money to rebuild that pool of funds that are going to be used to manage it. You know, the hope is that they've planned this out in such a way that they're not going to need to ask the members to contribute additional capital. But worst case scenario, you know, you could be asked to contribute more because the projections were.
I'm just more worried about, I understand the risk with inflation, I'm more worried about, you know, did this particular invoice that came out of the fund of money that's there to maintain this array, did that invoice actually go into our array? Or did the equipment, the time, and the labor go in somewhere else?
There's always trust. They could report to you about the state of the fund, how much money has come in through investment, how much money has gone out. But there's always an element of trust. Did they buy this part and did it go into this array? And, you know, you're gonna have that whether it's the guy working on your furnace, the guy working on your car. You're gonna have to make an assessment if you feel that the reputation of this company is strong enough to make you confident this is a good investment.
But if we asked for an annual report that shows what, has happened, or we could request that, and we could watch those numbers to see if anything, changes over
Right,
time.
and more than
That
a
might set
request,
up a red
it would
flag.
be required. The
Okay.
manager is not allowed to be behind the curtain in managing this asset. There has to be transparency so that the owners understand where they stand financially.
Okay, thank you.
Are they required, like any other kind of investment, let's say a 401k, somebody else is managing it, and you could be a private company? Is there a bond required by them to manage?
I'm not aware of any bond that's going to be required. Every LLC has a document called an operating agreement. So maybe the best way to explain this is that an LLC is like a partnership.